Gucci has tragically lost many artists over the past few years, to the point where fans believe that Gucci Mane may be cursed with the 1017 curse. But where did all this start? Gucci Mane, real name Roderick Davis, came onto the scene in 2001, initially signing with Straight Drop Music. He would drop some mixtapes with them before moving to Tommy Boy Records, where he would drop his first 3 albums. There wouldn't be any big releases until he would partner up with Atlantic Records in 2007 and was granted his imprint. He would name this So ICENT, but Gucci understood the business within music, so this wouldn't be the end. After his mixtapes Writing on the Wall and Bird Money, he would dissolve ICENT and move to Warner. But this would be a bigger deal, as he would be able to get his own label to sign artists under the name 1017. It wouldn't take long till he started signing artists he knew. He would first pick up a rapper by the name of OJ the Juice Man, an East Atlanta rapper, Slim Duncan, and Waka Flocka, who was actually the son of his manager at the time. It would all go good for a while until some odd circumstances would take place. In 2009, OJ the Juice Man was shot 8 times. He was hit outside a gas station during a robbery gone wrong. He ended up surviving by the grace of God, and he was actually even able to perform the same week. He eventually dropped his debut album shortly after the incident. He would have a permanent limp after the incident. He would be very lucky, but another signee wouldn't. Slim Duncan signed to So Icy in 2009. He would drop a handful of mixtapes and albums while being signed until about 2011, where he would tragically lose his life on December 16th. He was at an Atlanta-based studio preparing for a music video shoot where he got into an argument with a man to be believed over some candy, where he'd be hit in the chest once and rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. R.I.P. But Waka was different though, as he would end up just falling out with Gucci, even though it was a very messy situation, even including a fight between the two. They fell out mainly over money and a dispute over Gucci's disagreement about how his career was going, since he was managed by Waka's mom. And money was basically the main problem, even though he did live with her for a couple years while he was up and coming. A lot of people around the situation even felt that this could have been caused by Gucci's heavy drug use at the time. After this, Gucci would mainly try to focus on himself and his own career, but not too far behind him was always drama, including fights with fans at the club, allegedly even hitting one of them with a bottle, trouble with women, and plenty more. Until about 2013, where he would have some problem with some old friends. He would pull up armed with some weed on him and basically would be booked into Fulton County. It was looking like a decent situation, as it only looked like Gucci was going to be hit with a slap on the wrist of 180 days in jail until the feds picked up his case, where he was facing up to 20 years in the federal penitentiary. Eventually inking a deal with prosecutors, he would only have to spend a couple of years locked up, eventually coming home in 2016 with a bigger bag also, as he gave his wife his remaining $2 million before he turned himself in, and she would triple this bag by the time he was released. So fresh out, healthy and sober, to the point where fans didn't even recognize him and thought he was a clone. With $6 million to play with, Gucci went back to doing what he did best, and that's finding the next best talent. With his ears to the streets over the next year, he would reach out to up-and-coming artists and start signing them to his new 1017 label. The likes of Rallo, Enchanting, Pusheisty, Fujiano, and many others. He was signing people from the deepest trenches with a story to tell, and it was going good. The new 1017 was making their first big bit of money, and they were shining. Gucci passed out chains to all his new signees, and a couple of them even became the hottest artists of their time, like Pusheisty, who had an entire generation covering their face in the dead of summer with shiesty masks. But it seemed like their prime didn't last too long, as a few of them would get hit with cases at the peaks of their career. As Pusheisty got caught up on October 9th, 2020, he went to meet up with a local plug in Miami to buy some shoes, weed, and codeine. With over $50,000 on him, him and his friends decided to rob the pair and eventually succeeded, but it left the 2 plugs injured and even one of them shot in the butt. This was actually one of 3 shootings that he was accused of being a part of. One of the shootings was in Memphis before the incident, but it wasn't too clear who the gunman was. And the third incident would also take place within Miami at a strip club. During his performance, a patron attempted to steal Pooh Shiesty's back end of $40,000 out of his back pocket, which led him to letting off shots as he was leaving the club. Bullet ended up ricocheting off the ground and hitting one of the security guards at the club. Fighting his case for a while, it looked like Pooh Shiesty ended up getting about 63-month sentence. Free Shiesty. Fuggiano fell to the similar fate. While Molly was at its peak hype, he would be pulled over with a gun in the car, and it wasn't a terrible situation at first. He would be able to post a $50,000 bond, but he was required to wear an ankle bracelet. With all this opportunity on the table of the hype of his first viral song, he would burn off his band and go on the run, doing shows wherever he could, to the point where he was even instructing fans to block the police officers from picking him up if they entered the show. He went on the run for about 3 months until the marshals picked him up outside a show in Tennessee. He would receive a similar fate, getting sentenced to about 5 years for his charges. Hot Boy West was signed at 10/17 on the 4th of July, 2021, receiving his watch and chain on the big day. He couldn't stop flexing. Hot Boy West was different though. He was where drill music met like R&B soul. In my opinion, he had some of the best music on the label. He even received a $40,000 advance and eventually blew through it, which at one point led him to do what he does best, and that's go back to the streets to make money. He decided to use one of his pieces to try to finesse somebody. He put an ad out for his Rolex for about $9,000, eventually getting a buyer to meet up with him. He eventually met up with the guy and running off with the $9,000 and the Rolex. He left a pretty easy paper trail directly to him. He would be later arrested for armed robbery. And if y'all know Texas, they do not play at all when it comes to armed robbery. Released shortly after on bond, he stayed out of trouble for a fair bit of time until he got into it with his baby mama one day and attempted to run her off the road, basically saying that he wasn't able to see his kid. He would be rebooked back into the county jail. Without the ability to get back out, he would eventually get sentenced to about 15 years. Hood Rich Pablo Juan got his first look in the Atlanta scene, featuring on a Pee Wee Longway song, leading him to getting signed in 2017. He would gain traction with his track We Don't Love Them, but the curse would kick him from the peak of his career and smack him a few times on the way down, as he would be a victim of multiple robberies, leading him to being exposed, even leading him to going on live with a battered face explaining what happened to him. But this wasn't the full effect, as in 2020 he'd be caught up in a RICO case, which had 59 counts on it, including ice sales, marijuana sales, and 4 murders. He'd eventually plead out to about 5 years, which he is currently still sitting on. Matt Critter was a lesser-known signee of Gucci. He would be arrested shortly after he signed. Being hit was a wild case where it involved 2 different shootings. After a man was struck by gunfire, police were combing the scene of that first murder, where another man was killed inside his car, only about a mile from the instance. It is to be believed that that was Matt Critter's cousin, the second person that did die in that situation. You know, he ended up getting picked up with his brother and another friend. Yeah, it's not too clear what's going on with his situation, as he is currently still sitting on it. Rollo wasn't actually a signee of 1017, but he did sign with Birdman's Cash Money and Young Scooter's Black Migo Gang, which did have a joint venture with 1017, which fans did believe kind of sent some bad juju Rollo's way, as he was arrested in 2018 after 2 private jets that were tracked back to Rollo. Federal authorities eventually found close to $2 million worth of packaged weed on the planes. After a turbulent case where he was sentenced to 97 months in 2022, he has actually been released for these charges. The thing though about the curse is not everybody falls to a legal problem, as some suffered from the silent disease of drug addiction. Enchanting, a Texas rapper who was actually born in Germany, grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and spent time in Atlanta. She was signed to Gucci in 2020, dropping a handful of hot singles, but behind the scenes, she was battling a lot of demons. She had a bad addiction that she has been fighting and really attempted to drop towards the end of her life. She even shut herself into one of her close friends' house to try to go through withdrawals and do that final kick, but it was just too much. She would eventually return, and complications would happen during an overdose where she'd have a heart attack. It would be rushed to the hospital, where she'd later tragically pass away. Big Scar, who was actually Pooh Shiesty's blood cousin, would sign in 2021, and the rap game was a natural for him, as his first video would do 50K. He would drop a bunch of heat under 2017. He would end up being one of the fan favorites, as people loved Big Scar's energy and infectious laughs. But he would be fighting some demons and pain, as he was shot in a car where he'd be left hit in his hip and crashed out. The bullet would lodge into his back, but doctors would be able to save his life after they would have to literally split him in half. But they'd have to leave the bullet in his back, which led him to being in so much pain, which was also provable, which gave him access to some strong pills, as seen in some of his last lives. He was heavily medicated. He ended up accidentally passing away at his girlfriend's house of a prescription overdose just a few days before Christmas. R.I.P. Lil Wop. He came up in the SoundCloud era. He was signed in 2017 in the summer of 2017 with close connections with famous Dex and Trippie Redd and even the rainbow-haired 6ix9ine. He obviously used drugs and was on the weirder side. What he turned out to be, nobody truly seen coming. After a while of not dropping music, Lil Wop would pop out and basically claim that he was openly bi and would like to dress up like a female from time to time. He even was recently arrested at a cheap hotel for some wild allegations. And even his arrest footage would go super viral of him looking almost unrecognizable. Lil Ry probably got the easiest out of everybody in a way, as he was signed to Gucci after going viral in his music videos and his crash out style. He would constantly talk about his drug use in songs to the point where fans felt like this was the reason why he crashed out on NBA Youngboy. After he felt he was mentioned in a song where YB dissed Gucci over him working with Lil Durk, it still led him on a crash out campaign on social media that led to him even getting jumped in Lenox Mall in late 2024. It seemed like Gucci was sick and tired of it all and just dropped everybody except for Pooh Shiesty and Foogiano. Do I believe that the 1070 curse exists? Not really. You feel me? It just kind of is a thing. Like, you got people that's coming from the streets and, you know, they got stuff that they battling in their past. You know, it's kind of hard to take somebody out that situation and just expect them to be corporate after. That part of them is still there. So you can't really be mad at them if they end up, you know, being in a legal situation. You can only be there for them, you feel me, and try to guide them. At the end of the day, you got to let these people develop and let them, you know, live life, because at the end of the day, they're still humans. There's only so much Gucci could have done in these situations. Do I feel like he's to blame? No. Do I feel like some of these people were ready for their level of fame? Not at the same time, no. But you can't really put that on Gucci. And I don't feel like it's fair how people blame a lot of stuff on him and what took place. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this video. Let me know if y'all want to see more of this. Y'all be smooth. I will see you on the next video.